Hello, this is a rather random time to check in with the Scarlet Letter. I have not finished the very first section, the Custom House, the kind of the introduction to the Scarlet Letter. A really jeezily long introduction. This isn't like 1 or 2 pages. This is a chapter of the book here, which is all about Nathaniel Hawthorne living in his, his he's a Salem boy, and his ancestors have been Salemites. He has John Hawthorne, and great grandfather was a judge who presided over the Salem witch trials. He has a deep history in this town, and he's kind of done with it. He doesn't think much of the town, or it's one of these things of like he describes it as the Hawthorns continuing to sow themselves in Salem soil is like overusing a plot of land for potatoes. You just get diminishing returns as you go along. You've sucked all the nutrients. You've sucked everything that could be got out of this soil, and as a result, he says that he is a shallow, limp, not really that very distinguished offshoot of his illustrious ancestors. Which is saying something, since he's Nathaniel Hawthorne, and we know he's going to be one of the great American authors. But so he has a pretty. I can see why when this book was released, maybe people who lived in Salem weren't that happy with it. It's one of these, it's a washed up town. I wonder if there's a part of this is the ideology of all the hot stuff that was happening in America was go west, young man. That's where all the good stuff was. And back on the original colonies and the original states, it's like, oh, this is the old kind of overused, overworked place, and you're never going to get anything there. There's a part of that which I think maybe comes into his view of this. There's also maybe the biblical thing of this was an Eden, but it's kind of fallen. There could be that in there. I know that we're going to get into a lot of morality and views of human nature, and maybe the darkness of humanity from Hawthorne's point of view. That's where I've got that. He talks about himself and how he was a writer, but he gave it up to become a surveyor, to take coin in this government appointed job, and going into it and not axing at least all of the old dudes, all the old sea captains who had taken this as their kind of retirement gig, who were incapable of even making it in to the custom house, much less doing their jobs there. And he says for the most part he was actually fairly merciful there. He only cut the really obviously, like, you're not working here, you've got the position but you've never come in, you can't come in, you're that infirm, and cutting those ones. So there's that, and he is a political appointment, and there was definitely fear at the beginning whether he was just going to kind of clean house, as political appointees often do, and put in their own cronies. He didn't do that to whatever extent, but there's this thing of like, oh, he gave up writing to do this job, and there's sort of, he has a concern about, if I ossify in this job, I'm never going to be a writer again. It's just, you can't get into the right state of really getting. He at least can't get into the right state. Anthony Trollope would probably disagree. He can't get into the right state to kind of sink down and conjure up the ghosts, the living ghosts, the animate his characters and stuff like that. He finds he can't do that. There's definitely the danger of like, oh God, am I just going to stay in this until I die, gray, and it's going to unman me, unman me to the point that even when I do get kicked out, I'll just kind of pine to get a government to get the next government job versus kind of doing something on my own kind of American um, go get 'emness will be have drained out of me. But at this final section here, we find out that General Taylor has been elected to office as the president, and he does get turfed. He gets turfed. That I think Taylor must be of the Whig Party, which was apparently still going at this point in American politics, and he, as a Democrat, is out on his ass. So that means that he is actually going to be able to kind of get out and do stuff, which brings us to uh, if you're going to hone all this down, he finds a letter from that is an old letter that was probably pre the American Revolution days, written by an old surveyor that details the life of a is it Jonathan Pugh, I believe it is, and he says like, wow, this could make a really great story, but he finds as while he's in his job, he can't do it. But now he's getting axed. Hooray! Now he can perhaps conjure up this past world, this the end of the 1600s world, and tell us the story of the Scarlet Letter. At least that's what I assume we're going to get to. But at this point, he's been axed. So yeah, I figured I'd just stop and check in and talk about it. Yeah, just his viewpoints on hometowns. I mean, my family do not have deep roots in Kelowna, but it's like there is just something about being born in a place and just wanting to get away from it and find more fruitful thing elsewhere is definitely relatable. And there's the idea of, oh, I'm gonna pick up another job that isn't the thing that I want to do, the creative job that I want to do, but that having this other job, well, will bring in coin and, you know, help me live and breathe and have food and a roof over my head. There is that kind of worry that like I won't be able to be creative because your main energies are doing your job, your day job. So yeah, it's got some good stuff there. And yeah, this idea of conjuring up their animating ghosts, being of a writer's job of characters, but also conjuring up a different place and time and a different thought process, and the imaginative leap you're doing there is all kind of interesting stuff in this section. But yeah, I mean, there's no worse critic of a place than a former hometown boy. That I think that seems pretty clear. And yeah, I think his defense of this at a kind of a second preface that he added on, it was like, oh, I got a lot of shit for this, but it's like, no, this was like of good humor, and it's true. It's how I felt about it. But it is in a way humorous. You take it as a former hometown boy kind of being like, fuck, I just want out of here. All right, I will leave it there. I've been Jay. More videos later.